works, social, works, social, works, social, social, works, social, works, social, works. Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works. Yeah, S works. Everyone put it in their hands. You know it's a vibe. They're waiting in line to get up and flood up the stands. Yeah, we in this together. We feeling like fam. It's all about peace. So pull up with friends. You better come through with you and your crew, cause everybody going in. S works, so we keep it lit. You can see how we move the city from the west side to the east. Ooh, you can feel how we leave through. It's all about the youth. Change the world through the tunes. Make the world to a better place. Saying S works, what we do.
Social works, social works, social works, social, social works, social works, social works. Social works. Keep my family out the dirt. This organization, we stopping no Satan and open, we call it SWorkshop. Action on Taylor, the killer verse. I do on my family, my city hurt. They killing our babies, this war going crazy. I pray for my city to reimburse. Running schools for the kiddies. We the city, yeah, we litty. All I know is it's work. Work hard, keep it busy. Know that life can be tricky, but please just let me finish. Let me just be a witness. S works, handle business.
Social works, social works, social works, social, social works, social works, social works.
Ready or not, here we come. South side, west side, east side, north side. Up on the run, we ain't for the none. We came in the party, we here for the fun. Celebrate life, the party we young. Sky's the limit, we looking above. We up in the sun, no matter what, we stay on the run. Ha, S work, do your thing. S work, keep it lit. Bullseye, keep your aim. Yeah, we up on the jib. North side, that's the way. Ready or not, here we come. S work, keep the energy. Look, yeah, we never unplug. S work, show some love.
Social works, social works, social works, social, social works, social works, social works. Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works. Yeah, S works. Everyone put it in their hands. You know it's a vibe. They're waiting in line to get up and flood up the stands. Yeah, we in this together. We feeling like fam. It's all about peace. So pull up with friends. You better come through with you and your crew, cause everybody going in. S works, so we keep it lit. You can see how we move the city from the west side to the east. Ooh, you can feel how we leave through. It's all about the youth. Change the world through the tunes. Make the world to a better place. Saying S works, what we do.
Social works, social works, social works, social, social works, social works, social works. Social works. Keep my family out the dirt. This organization, we stopping no Satan and open, we call it SWorkshop. Action on Taylor, the killer verse. I do on my family, my city hurt. They killing our babies, this war going crazy. I pray for my city to reimburse. Running schools for the kiddies. We the city, yeah, we litty. All I know is it's work. Work hard, keep it busy. Know that life can be tricky, but please just let me finish. Let me just be a witness. S works, handle business.
Social works, social works, social works, social, social works, social works, social works.
Ready Ready or not, here we come. South side, west side, east side, north side. Up on the run, we ain't finna none. We came in the party, we here for the fun. Celebrate life, the party we young. Sky is the limit, we looking above. We up in the sun, no matter what, we stay on the run. Ha, SWork, do your thing. SWork, keep it lit. Bullseye, keep your aim. Yeah, we up on the jib. North side, that's the way. Ready or not, here we come. SWork, keep the energy. Look, yeah, we never unplug. SWork, show some love.
Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works. Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works. Yeah, S works. Everyone put it in their hands. You know it's a vibe. They're waiting in line to get up and flood up the stands. Yeah, we in this together. We feeling like fam. It's all about peace. So pull up with friends. You better come through with you and your crew, cause everybody going in. S works, so we keep it lit. You can see how we move the city from the west side to the east. Ooh, you can feel it how we leave through. It's all about the youth. Change the world through the tunes. Make the world to a better place. Saying S works, what we do.
Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works. Social works. Keep my family out the dirt. This organization, we stopping no Satan and open, but we call it SWorks. Action Untitled the killer verses. I do on my family, my city hurt. They killing our babies, this war going crazy. I pray for my city to reimburse. Private schools for the kiddies. We the city, yeah, we litty. All I know is it's work. Working hard, keep it busy. Know the life keep it tricky, but please just let me finish. Let me just be a witness. SWorks handle business.
Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works.
Ready or not, here we come. South side, west side, east side, north side. Up on the run, we ain't finna none. We came in the party, we here for the fun. Celebrate life, the party we young. Sky is the limit, we looking above. We up in the sun, no matter what, we stay on the run. Ha, SWork, do your thing. SWork, keep it lit. Bullseye, keep your aim. Yeah, we up on the jib. North side, that's the way. Ready or not, here we come. SWork, keep the energy. Look, yeah, we never unplug. SWork, show some love.
Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works.
SWorkshops are a series of online workshops featuring the many incredibly talented friends of SocialWorks. This series aims to inspire and educate, bringing local and national creatives live to your smartphone. They will be sharing and teaching specific aspects of their craft. A wide variety of professions, interests, and hobbies are represented within our curriculum. Did we mention it's a fundraiser too? The stay-at-home notice has students wondering what's to come. For some, graduation and prom will both be canceled. This campaign will directly fundraise a celebration event for those students within the Chicagoland area. Once it's safe, of course. Tune in to any of our socials for one or all of the SWorkshops. You can find the full schedule of programming at socialworksshy.org or on our Instagram. Classes start Monday, April 13th. We'll see you there.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to SWorkshops. Mind mind mapping 101 go from idling to ideating with me, Karen Spears. I am the owner of Kareracter Creative Studio based here in Chicago, Illinois, and I am partnering with SocialWorks to discuss the wonderful world of mind mapping. So thank you for tuning in. Together, we will go over what is mind mapping, how it's beneficial to you, and also just some really cool ways to like get you started on doing this really cool concept. So thank you so much, SocialWorks, for having me, and let's get started. So we're here today mainly to actually fundraise for the Prom Fund that SocialWorks is putting on. So as you all may know, during this time, a lot of high school and college seniors, they weren't able to walk across the stage, and also high schoolers here in Chicago aren't able to go on prom, which is like a huge deal if you know how like Chicago does prom. And so SocialWorks stepped in to really fundraise when it's safe to launch a prom or some form of celebration for high schoolers that missed out this year. And I can totally relate to that. I was in high school and I was actually unable to go to prom due to financial issues. So if you enjoy this session and if you want to give back, definitely text SocialWorks to the number 797979, and you can get the link to donate. And yeah, like this is really cool. I love what you all are doing. And so I'm here to share more about me and what I do as a graphic designer, but also a hand letterer. During this time, we are going through some crazy ups and downs. And I talk to creatives all day, every day. And the main thing that I've been hearing is like, I'm feeling so uninspired, or I'm feeling like, I'm stuck, right? And partly has to do with being in quarantine and being in the house and trying to be creative in a space that we're supposed to be relaxed and at ease. And so I've been hearing a lot of these conversations with local creatives, and I'm like, there has to be a way out of that. And so for me in my practice, I do what I call mind mapping with my clients. And it's really just a session of 90 minutes where we just do brain dumps to get their ideas and their creative juices flowing. And together we concretely figure out what your next steps are. And I do that in such a creative way. So today we're going to go over a few things, and here's what you'll learn. So this is what you'll need actually. You actually need a pen and paper if you have one, or if you're doing this digitally, an iPad will suffice. But I'm all about bringing handwriting back. So if you have a pen and paper, shorthand is the way to go. So today on this session, you will learn what are the benefits of mind mapping. And I know there's terms out there. We've probably heard of it. Some of us probably haven't. But we want to make sure that we are all on the same page about what mind mapping is and also the benefits of it. 2, the tools and techniques that I use to mind map. So I get a little crazy when it comes to color. I love color, and I love bringing things and ideas to life on paper. So I'll share a few of my favorite tools and techniques that I like to use for that. And then also at the end, I'll share a few frameworks that I've developed to help you get started on actually mind mapping whatever your vision is. So those are the 3 things that we're going to learn throughout our call today. And if you have a question, just drop it in the box or go to Slido.com and then search the hashtag SWorks and then type in your answer. And then throughout the call, I'll be addressing some of those questions that you may have during the presentation to keep the creative juices flowing. So if you have a pen and paper, hurry up and go grab it. If not, take some notes on your iPhone and revisit it later. But let's get started. Okay, so what is mind mapping? again, reiterating that we're in such a, a time of confusion, right? A lot of us are feeling stuck. We feel like we hit a lot of creative peaks and valleys. Maybe some of us who identify as a creative feel like we have so many ideas that we don't know what to do with them, or too little ideas and we just don't know where to go. And oftentimes we're not really talking to other people to help us really sort through our thoughts. And so that's why I created Write It Down, Make It Real, which is a 90-minute session where I allow people who are feeling creatively stuck to have a session with me, and we pick out your genius through mind mapping. And a lot of it is just really asking the right questions and then drawing it out so that we can really exercise a different part of our brains to really get the ideas going, right? So this term, I kind of coined it a little bit, and I call it creative idling. And so creative idling, I like to use the analogy of like a parked car. So if you've probably been in the parked car and it's running, it's idling, right? Like you're not going anywhere, you're kind of sitting, you're stuck, and you're like, where do I go? I'm running in a parked car. Well, creative idling is similar to that. You have all these ideas, but you just kind of don't know where to go. Like the engine's going, but you're kind of stagnant, right? And so that's what creative idling is for me. And so words associated with idling could be like, okay, well, I'm bored, or I feel weird, or I feel overwhelmed, I'm struggling, I'm sad, I'm stuck, I'm lost, and I'm uninspired. Uninspired is actually the number one word that I've been hearing a lot. And then also confused. So like, really kind of struggling with where your idea is coming from. You have this idea of this startup that you want to start, or, a side hustle or a hobby, but you can't seem to figure out what the starting point is. You're probably creative idling. So my goal is to take you from idling to ideating. And ideating is pretty much the process of coming up with new ideas in order for you to know exactly where you're going, or to get some concrete idea of how to start. So that is what mind mapping allows you to do. It helps you, get all of those creative things out of your head, see where those connections lie, and then allow you to create with more clarity. So when we ideate, we probably feel more inspired, we feel charged up, we feel free, we feel clear, or we feel some form of clarity, also energized or even motivated. And so those are some words associated with, making sure that, we're getting the ideas, and those things are really sparking those synapses in our brain. So that is the benefit of mind mapping. And for personally, I think the top 3 things that mind mapping allowed me to do, and it's also been a form of creative therapy for me. So again, even when it comes to creative challenges, I'm always kind of bogged down by like the approach in it all. Adulting is hard, so I use mind mapping for money management. I use it to negotiate contracts. I use it to figure out my list of groceries for the next week. So mind mapping can be applicable across different areas of your life. And as you can see, probably on the back of my wall, I have my wonderful wall of mind maps, where I really just get my ideas on paper first, and then bring them digitally to life. So mind mapping can be used in a variety of different ways. And I'll share with you a few tips later on of how I leverage them. So cool. Oh, also, another thing to remember when you mind map, that there is no rules that go to this, right? There are only guidelines that you can adopt. So when I talk about guidelines, these are frameworks of how to mind map. And also one thing to note is that you don't have to be an artist to mind map. We can, doodle or use words or like exaggeration marks to really get the point across. But the whole idea here is the art of visual thinking. So you want to make sure that you're not writing a huge paragraph of words, but you're condensing whatever your big concept is into a doodle or something visual that allows you to remember or allow you to, have more space to think. So those are the rules for mind mapping. There are no rules. And also keep in mind too, when you think about mind mapping, know that everything you allow yourself to suspend reality a little bit, meaning that, you get to, stick in your, whoever you want it to be, whoever you want to be, you can create that person while you're mind mapping. And it also allows you to think of your future self. So think about your future self, where you want to be, what you want to do, and mind mapping around that person who you admire to be is a great strategy on how to start. So keeping these in mind as we move forward, those are that's the reason for mind mapping for me and how it's helped me in different areas of my life. So I'll stop for questions really quick because I'm getting some so far. So if you feel, so Shade Baby loves you on Instagram, asks if you feel fear, which side would you say that sits on, idling or ideating? I could see it on both. What are your thoughts? Oh, I love that question. So fear, I think my definition of fear is like, we fear what we don't know. Right. And so when the things that we don't know, there are questions to be asked. And I think that is a huge part of mind mapping, is like really facing those big, scary concepts and things that we're afraid of, turning them into questions that feel more approachable or tangible to look up, to take away that fear. And I think that it probably sits on both sides depending on the situation. But hopefully your fear sits on the idling side, and then we can transfer that excitement, that fear into excitement on the ideating side. So really cool. All right, let's move forward. Okay, so the benefits of mind mapping, I break them down into three things. One is a visual language. So when we think about language, we usually, connect language into words or things you say, right? But when it comes to mind mapping, it's truly, taking those big words or those big concepts, condensing them down into a doodle or a few words that allows you to really think visually and explain your concepts a little deeper. So we see this in a corporate setting. Usually mind mapping is used to make decisions amongst the team or to explain how business works. And so they use a lot of diagrams, just to relate it back to just simple everyday living. You probably seen on Microsoft Word how they have like those charts that you can just add, or like those diagrams that you add in the text. Those are forms of mind mapping because it visually shows you how things connect, which is the number two point of seeing relationships. So mind mapping allows you to connect the dots visually with bigger concepts, but this can also be used in everyday life. Again, like I said, like budgeting or figuring out your next move in life. So those are different ways, is just to see the relationships of certain things throughout your life. And then 3 is to see the big picture. Oftentimes when we write down task list or, really every like simple day-to-day things, we often miss whatever the big picture is. So mind mapping allows you to lay the land and see what your big picture goal is, and then figuring out what areas you need to work on and how they relate. And so those are the 3 benefits to mind mapping to me. And this is how we're going to structure it moving into like the nitty gritty of figuring that out. So very cool. Now we get into pretty much what do you need to mind map? So there are a bunch of different things that I like to use to mind map. Again, I started off, I'm a creative, right? At heart. And so I was always known as the girl with the pretty handwriting. So in elementary school, I would be that girl that like came to school with a bunch of like pens in her like book bag. I would always be the one, if people were like, ask me, oh, can I borrow your marker or whatever? I would be so stingy with my stuff because I'm like, those are my pens. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that same sentiment. But I just carried it throughout my whole life. And so I have a collection of pens, notebooks everywhere, paper everywhere, because I find that drawing my ideas make them come to life. And it, just speaks larger to like manifestation and things like that. So it's really been helpful in me even just crafting my business or just crafting, ideas for my clients. And so pen to paper is my go-to and default when it comes to mind mapping. And I'll show you a little example like of what I did for this call actually. So I was like figuring out how this call would flow, and usually I'll just start like with a certain section, and right here I like put the time, and again you see that I merge like little doodles with whatever the concept is without getting too much into detail. But at the bottom you see I kind of like had a brain spurt, and so I wrote out a bunch of paragraphs. But the point is to make them super visually appealing to the eye, so then when you recall what you wrote down is really easy to access from your memory. So my top tools, I like sticky notes. I think sticky notes are really great, especially to keep you focused on whatever the big idea is, right? It's not that much space, real estate to write on. And so these are really good for daily tasks like checklists and the little things. And when I think about which paper size to choose for mind mapping, I kind of follow this rule. The bigger the idea, the bigger the paper. So when you have a huge idea, it will be in your benefit to have like a huge, like canvas size easel that you can paste on your wall, because again, the big ideas deserve that space, and that real estate for you to really draw out what that looks like for you. So the bigger the idea, the bigger your paper. So when we think about the small sticky notes, that's good for like daily tasks, for your checklist, for like the little things. When you think about like a notebook, right? Notebooks are cool, but I find that like I run through them super fast, and I oftentimes close them. I don't see them every day. So if you're mind mapping to tackle a goal or a big vision, right? You want to make sure that you're seeing that goal every day. So it makes more sense to post it on your wall or somewhere that you walk past every day to be visually reminded of what your goals are. So I think that the bigger the ideas are, the bigger your paper should be. Hence the last one, an Easel Notepad. I'm pretty sure you've all seen it in elementary school or high school where they come in with a cart and you just rip them off and paste them on the wall. Those are really cool to have. They're on Amazon. They're about $40. It's kind of pricey if you're just thinking about buying it for paper, but it's so worth it because you'll be able to, explore your ideas. And plus they, last for a very long time. So those are my top 3 paper options and techniques to use. So I will stop there and react to a few questions. So Lonnie PJRM on Instagram asks, is it true that the hardest thing is believing in your dreams? Very cool question. I believe that you choose your heart. And when you choose your heart, I think that for me, that means, really picking in life your battles, and what you want to tackle, right? I think that your dream should not be, it should be scary, right? Because the bigger and more hairy and audacious your dream is, it should scare you, right? But I think that doesn't mean that it's not tangible or that you can't get there. And what I love about mind mapping is that it allows you to explore what those big, hairy, audacious goals are that, kind of conjure up a little fear in you. But using fun techniques like mind mapping to really make them approachable and fun to figure out. And that's why I love mind mapping so much, is because it allows me to be free, and allows me to suspend my reality and think about a life that I'm not currently living, but a life far beyond, where I am now in this state and age right now. So love that question. Believe in your dreams, but use mind mapping to help you get closer to them. So I hope that answers your question. Okay. So again, if you have any questions, definitely drop them where you are, and then they'll channel them in and I'll see them all across platforms. So definitely get your questions ready. Okay, so next slide. So thinking about what other things that I like to use. So I'm a, what does Erica Badu say? She's an analog girl living in a digital world. I'm the same kind of girl, really default to pen and paper when I'm, expressing my ideas, but love anything tech, right? So I'm like the biggest iPad Apple junkie ever. So I'm always up to date on like the new tech things. And my current favorite right now is the iPad Pro. And I've learned that a lot of students actually use the iPad Pro in school to take notes. And they take notes in a mind mapping kind of way. And if you look this up on YouTube, you would find some gold in seeing how like med students take notes. And I find it so inspiring. So my biggest thing has been taking notes on the iPad Pro lately. And if you are working digitally, I recommend these few apps that would allow you to explore your ideas in creative ways, similar to writing on paper. It's the eco-friendly version too. So you have the apps. GoodNotes is a really good app. It's basically like a digital notebook, and you can export your notes. You can actually write your handwriting. It'll turn into text for you. So that's a really cool, low-cost app to have on your iPad if you have one. I love Procreate. Procreate is a artsy app, but it allows you to practice your handwriting, and you can play around with different brush pens, and really get super creative in drawing. There's also Adobe Draw, which is also a free app if you have an Adobe account. And then there's Evernote. Evernote is similar to GoodNotes, and it allows you to organize different notebooks. So those are my top apps for the iPad. And what I didn't mention on here is if you have an iPad, you want to make sure that you have the Apple Pencil. This is the cover on it. It doesn't come like this, but the Apple Pencil is really cool, and it's adaptable with the iPad Pro. And when you're writing on the iPad, there's also this screen protector that you can get from Amazon that allows you to write on it, and it feels as if you're writing on paper. Without it, it feels like you're writing on a screen, and it doesn't give you that grip that you need. So when you have an iPad, just make sure you get that protective covering and it feels like paper. So those are my digital tools for mind mapping. Now, for tangible tools, I love those big sticky notes. You can buy them off Amazon and post them on your wall. Again, the bigger the idea, the bigger the paper. So keep that in mind. Any big markers. So if you like Sharpies, your permanent markers, I love Papermate Flair. Papermate Flair is a skinnier marker, but they come in a whole bunch of different colors. And when it comes to mind mapping, you want to make sure that you always have like those colors at hand that allow you to get really fun with the doodles. And then Stabilo, that's a really cool brand. They also are similar to Papermate Flair, but have a wide variety of colors and pen tip sizes. So those are my top tangible. And then also some sticky notes. So make sure you don't forget your sticky notes because you may use them in some of your drawings. All right. I will get some questions going. So we're going really, really good. My slides look so cool. Thank you. I can't see who said that. But how did I make them? Well, I actually used the app Procreate I used Procreate for my slides, and I literally mind mapped my entire presentation. So this is me drawing freehand, my ideas on paper. So this is how, an outcome of mind mapping can look like for you. Oh, you're so excited. So Shay Baby Loves You on Instagram says she's really excited for this. I'm very excited too. Thanks so much for tuning in. And I hope that you find some very valuable lessons in here. And then I can't read the Instagram handle, but one person asked, what are the benefits of putting pen to paper to you? The benefit of pen to paper allows you to exercise different parts of your brain that you wouldn't normally do if you're on a computer. So it's really exercising, that frontal lobe where you're looking for information, you're trying to digest it, and you're trying to simplify it into a drawing. And so it's working both sides of your brain, actually, when you're able to see something, draw it out, and actually put meaning behind it when you explain it verbally. So that is the benefit of pen to paper for me and shorthand. I also think that the art of handwriting is going away, and we need to bring it back before it's gone forever. So mind mapping allows you to practice your handwriting, practice your cursive if you don't know how to do it, and just brings you back to like being a day one kid in school having fun. So I love it. All right, let's get back into the presentation. So again, I use mind mapping for a bunch of different things, right? I use it in my business. So again, I'm the owner of Character Creative Studio. I'm a graphic designer, but my job is to translate ideas into actual things that you can see visually. So that looks like, if a person has a business and they need a logo, I'm the person in the middle that like understands what the vision is, make sure that I'm on the same page with my client. But then my duty is to also create whatever that is into a tangible thing, which could be a logo or business cards or website. But I'm actively translating a vision, right? And so mind mapping allows me to, visually communicate with my client because I'm a very visual person. I can understand a concept, but it's usually better if someone sees me and how I think through my drawings. And so that is how I leverage mind mapping in my business. When it comes to me actually dealing with life and adulting, mind mapping makes it fun, right? So when it comes to adulting, we think about money management, we think about paying back student loans, we think about what do I want to be when I grow up, like all of these things, and they can be very daunting, right? They make you feel like you're behind, or we just feel like we're behind all the time. I think mind mapping, we should do it way more often. I think that any person that is actively chipping away at their goals should be mind mapping at least once a week and revisiting the goals that they set for themselves. Usually it'll be like at the top of the year, right? We will set our resolutions, and a majority of us kind of move away from that. But if you're mind mapping frequently, you allow yourself the time and the space to revisit what those goals are for you, and allows you to rework them if you need to, but it's always there, right? That's why I recommend having like those things that you can post on the wall so that you can see them every day and edit where needed. So for example, that looks like for me making a quarterly budget, right? Usually we'll make like a month-to-month budget, but having a quarterly budget allows you to, again, see the big picture and how things connect, right? So in this case, I gave a framework of how I would typically, approach a problem that is very scary for me. And what's very scary for me right now is money. And especially during this time, we are like, where is our next paycheck going to come from? What is it like if I can't pay rent? But for me, that, running my own business, I'm, always thinking about the cash flow in a different way. And so mind mapping allows me to reconfigure the areas that I need to in order for me to maintain what my goals are. So if you're kind of feeling in the same way, mind mapping allows you to get those scary thoughts out onto paper and then figure out what you need to search in order for you to get, to where you need to go. And so this is a framework that I created. This isn't how all mind mapping papers should look. This is merely just how I would do it. So I would start at the top left of the corner at the top, and you get to write your subject. So if it's money management or my budget plan for quarter 2 2020, you write whatever that subject line is there. Then you go down to say like, okay, well, what is the problem? Is the problem that I can't save enough? Is the problem that I want to save for this trip in 2021? Is the problem, I don't know what investing looks like. Write it down, and then also the numbers around it. Make sure that you put what you are kind of confused about or what you're afraid of. So I think that writing your fears down on paper, that kind of makes them real and put it out there instead of avoiding it all the time. And so you kind of see what you're working with. And again, add drawings or little doodles around it to really get a better sense of how can I save room on this paper, because if you write paragraphs on top of paragraphs, it becomes a little, your real estate is going to be taken up. So making sure that you have like little doodles to represent big concepts is the way to go. So add drawings where you can. So in the next, if you see the flow, just follow the arrows, QTNA, right? So a person asked me, is it like, where does fear lie? Is it on the idling side or the ideating side? I thought that was a really great question. But fear, usually we fear what we don't know. So it's really good to approach what we don't know in a way that we just get it out of our heads, because that's going to be a way for us to explore the solutions or the answers to what we don't know. So QT&A, write down as many questions as you can around that one thing that you just feel like you just don't know about. And then that's going to be your anchor for how you proceed in the mind mapping activity. So once you have your questions down, add some arrows, put some doodles around it, maybe add like, the biggest question, right? Like mind mapping is really cool, but because it allows you to expand on those big picture things. And you can make your letters big. And if you have like a supporting side note or idea, you can make that small. But really highlight like what it is that you really want to get out of your own mind mapping session. So then write down all the questions that you have. They could be scary, they could be little, they could be big. And that's going to be your guiding point for how you approach finding the answers to those questions. And then if you have time, write a little reflection note of what you've learned or what you're thinking about, right? And I want to also go back. Typically, mind mapping sessions, a good one, you should allocate probably like 60 minutes to do it, because it just allows you, 60 uninterrupted minutes. That means like putting your phone on do not disturb, or, just making sure that you have the time and a space in a quiet space to explore your ideas with yourself. So allow reflection in that time as well. Then to the left of it, we have the solution box. So this is where the ideating part comes in, right? Maybe you took some time from those questions, you kind of see what it is that you don't know. And then you use that solution box to really write down all the things that you figure out you can figure out the answers to. So maybe like one of your questions is, how does investing works? The solution box would sound like, look up investing, like different ways of investing, right? So that is a solution to one of the questions that you asked. And it's a launch pad to how you will approach whatever it is that you don't know. So then going back, write as many ideas as you can in your solutions box. And this is really helpful to do with a thought partner. So if you have a thought partner, if you have like a homegirl, homeboy that you can literally hit up and just get their thoughts on, definitely do that and have them contribute to your solutions box. So the final thoughts are things that like, okay, really circle and narrow down which ones you feel like are most approachable, and then proceed with figuring that part out, right? Then you can add your final thoughts. Maybe you can add a new mood. Maybe you came into this activity feeling, uninspired, and then you leave feeling uplifted. Definitely write that down on your mind map, because it's going to show you the journey, and also document the mood shifts that you may have going on with this whole mind mapping activity. So I'm going to stop there and ask any questions that you may have. So Anonymous said, how can I book a mind mapping session with you? Great question. Visit carespears.com, K-A-R-E, no N, Spears, SPEARS.com. It gives you a brief description on what that is, or what creative idling is, and then you can book your session there. Great. So Granada Gabby on Instagram says, love the example of investing. Correct. Investing is a really daunting concept, but the technique of mind mapping allows you to figure out the moving pieces of such a big picture concept in a very approachable and friendly way. So that's why I use an example of investing, because when you read it like on paper, right, it just seems like such a abstract concept. But when you start to like really pick apart the pieces, you get to understand it. Oh, so Jackie on Instagram says 100. Thank you, girl. All right, Coco Kashaw on Instagram says, this is, where'd her question go? Okay, I'll get that one. So what services does Kareracter Creative Studio offer? Great question. So we are a graphic design studio based here in Chicago, and we focus mainly on logo and branding, as well as digital campaigns that we do for our clients. And we merge photography and graphic design together to create compelling campaigns. So if you want to learn more about our studio, just visit Kareracter.com and learn more about what it is that we do. Very cool. So where can we find you online? Thank you so much for asking. You can find me online at Care Spears on Instagram and Kareracter, Kareracter, on Instagram as well. And that's my website. So very cool. I will revisit a few questions a little later. I want to get through one more framework that would be helpful for you. So I came across an Instagram page a few days ago, and I saw that they made a synergy map. And a synergy map is basically showing the relationships, specifically business related, showing the relationships between how a business functions, right? And it shows you the moving parts and how they connect together. And so this particular example that was created was based off of Issa Rae's business model. And so she has multiple businesses. One, with Issa Rae Production, she has a recording studio. She also has, a place where she casts and films her shows and everything. And all, like, you see that they may be separate entities, but they all connect together. And so they made a synergy map that looks similar to what this drawing looks like. So it'll have like her main business at the top, and then all of her subsidiaries or the offshoots of her businesses. And then it shows how the revenue of one feeds back into the revenue of the larger picture. And I loved seeing that so much, because when we think about business or entrepreneurship, we oftentimes don't see the big picture and how things like your email or your website or your Instagram play and work together. So again, mind mapping allows you to see relationships between things in a visual way. And so a synergy map, again, can be used to explain bigger concepts like business flows or operations, or like a hierarchy in a business, right? Like you have a CEO, then you have the COO, and then you have a secretary. And you want to know that in relation to what leadership looks like. And so synergy map is a really, really cool way to do that. And it also falls under the umbrella of mind mapping. So thank you. I'm going to actually move on to some questions just so that we can chip away at these as we're going through. And again, if you have questions, definitely knock them or put them in slido.com and then search SWorks, or just drop them in the comments, and then I'll see them as they pop up. So Coco Kashaw on Instagram says, "This is so great, Karen. I agree. So important to see those dreams every day." Absolutely. That is the one. If that is the only thing that you get out of today's session, is that you have to make your dreams and whatever your goals are visible. And if you can do that in a fun and engaging way to make sure that you can recall them when you wrote it down, definitely use mind mapping as a tool to do that. So Shay Baby Loves You on Instagram says, "I've been debating about getting an iPad Pro. You are really pushing me over the edge." I am like an unofficial Apple spokesperson, because the way that their devices all sync together and just make life easier, I'm just here for it. And the iPad Pro specifically caters to a creative. And so they've made all of the apps very easy to use and make it feels like you're literally writing on paper, which is really awesome. So Money MJH on Instagram says, "Amazing. Thank you so much. This is like, this truly gives me life. I love doing things that challenge me in a creative way, and mind mapping is the way to go." So Anonymous says, "Thinking about the future is stressful for me. How can mind mapping be a fun, relaxing activity?" I love that. I love that mind mapping can be relaxing. For me, again, it's creative therapy. I struggle with, I'm always like future oriented. And so in order for me to stay on top of my goals and making sure that I'm hitting my milestones, it's really important for me to revisit whatever my vision is on a consistent basis. Again, I said the cadence, like if you can make mind mapping literally an hour long, once a week, very approachable for you, but also make it fun, right? So mind mapping is fun for me because I love color. So I can bring in different color markers. I love doodling. I love handwriting. I love the idea of making something really cute. I don't know if you've seen this earlier in the session, but I drew out literally like what I would be writing or talking about on my call today in a mind map. And this was something that I just wanted to get over with so that I could recall my talking points in a visual way. So as you can see, I wasn't literally sitting up here the whole time looking at what my notes are, because those visual cues that I drew out were so readily accessible in my head that allowed me to understand what it is that I wanted to say. And so it can be fun and relaxing because you can doodle and draw and make it fun and yours. And that's the beauty of mind mapping. Also, it doesn't have to look like, mine or someone else's. It's uniquely yours. Love that. So Anonymous says, are there goals that are too ambitious for a mind map? Absolutely not. Again, I said the more scary and big and audacious your goal is, the better. It should spark some fear in you, but allow mind mapping to help you approach those scary problems in a fun way. That is the goal and the purpose of mind mapping, for me at least, is to help you approach those big scary challenges in a way that's less intimidating. So no, there are no goals that are too ambitious. There's no such thing. That is what a goal should be, ambitious. So I love that. Okay. So we also have, how did you develop your mind map methods? Thank you. Sorry, that was a little mouthful. I developed my mind mapping methods through different ways, right? It's different for everyone. So when I have my individual sessions, write it down, make it real, that's the name of it. I pretty much am an active listener, right? I have frameworks that I can pull from in my head based on what the person's problem is, because when people enter these sessions, there is no singular problem that they're dealing with, and there's also no single solution. So my biggest number one method is active listening. And when we listen, we're listening to respond, when actually we should be listening to understand. And so there's a difference, right? So when I'm listening, I'm making sure that I'm pulling out, the genius in whatever a person is explaining to me, so that they can see from a creative's perspective what stands out to me, and then it allows them to get a more clear approach on what it is they should tackle. And so again, back to your point, my methods are active listening, and it's really just leveraging and pulling my creative, aspects into that process. So everyone's mind map would innately look different. So I hope that answers your question. So Shay Baby Loves You on Instagram asks, what are some categories that we should be thinking or ideating through? You mentioned business plans and budgeting. Correct. So again, I think last week, Cassidy, I think on Wednesday, she did her social works method on, I think it was like on just create like therapy, like it was almost therapeutic. And, she approached her mind mapping from a mental health perspective. So I really thought that was super insightful, because mind mapping should not be limited to just business or running, you're running a business or doing budgeting activities, right? It could also be used to just understand your emotions and figuring out how things connect in your life. So the subject matters can be wide ranging. It just really depends on what are you the most afraid to approach readily. And I think mind mapping allows you to have it to approach those scary problems in a very fun and engaging way. So love that. All right, so let's get back to the mind mapping frameworks. I want to revisit one of the slides. This is one that I love because it really just maps out a generic journey of how I draw my mind maps out, right? It usually shows a process, right? The mind mapping shows a process of your think patterns and allows you to really create business concepts that are, daunting or hard to understand just through words. Like you need a supplemental visual to think it through. And so I really like this flow. So when you think about the different flows that you can take with mind mapping, You can start from any corner of the page or actually in the middle of the page, and then go outward. So for this particular one, I started at the top left, worked my way over, I went down and used arrows to really guide the way that my paper is structured. You can do this in a bunch of other different ways too. I've seen people start from the middle, so they'll put their big idea in the middle of the paper and then draw outwards. And then in the end, they would connect the dots. Again, this is solely like bomb for like if you want to do it one-on-one with yourself, or you can do it with someone else that will allow you to help you see those connections more readily. So if you have a person or creative thought partner that you trust, I definitely recommend that you bring them in the loop because they may think of things that you cannot on your own. So I love that. So we have Trap Rock Bandit on Instagram says, sending love and support from Rochester, New York. Y'all are doing some great work. Never stop. Thank you so much for that comment and that uplifting comment on this Monday morning. So very cool. So Shay Baby Loves You on Instagram continues. Any other categories that are helpful to see visually? Very good question. So we have mental health, business structure. You can do budgeting. You can also do where you want to go in life, what you want to be when you grow up. I've actually had a recent client that wanted to explore different careers. And so she, had experience in one industry, but wanted to branch out and do another industry. And so in the middle of her mind map, she wrote what her skills were and then started researching different industries that had her skill set. So I think that that's another really cool way to use and leverage mind mapping when you want to explore different areas of your career and your work life. So I'm hoping that this is super helpful. We're down to 5 minutes. So if you have a question, definitely drop it now so that I can get through it. But otherwise, the slides are pretty much done. If you want me to revisit another slide, I could do that too. So Hey LC on Instagram says, love this so much, especially the breakdown. You just ordered some new Stabilo pens for this. Yes, I'm so here for it. Like, those pens are the best. Like, they have the most like vibrant colors in the other thing. They don't bleed through the paper. So I'm like, yes, I love those pens. Okay, not trying to make anyone bankrupt here on this call by buying an iPad or anything crazy, but these are some really, really cool tools to use. Shiny_Daz on Instagram reacts. She says, Karen, you are amazing. Thank you so much. You are amazing as well. And I'm so glad that everyone's finding very useful tips here because you can really start applying these immediately. Again, start small, take an hour out your day to do it. Okay, Morning Dawn 82 on Instagram asks, let's see, what's the difference between mind mapping and brainstorming? Great question. They're one and the same. Mind mapping leverages more doodles and allows you to explain concepts in a visual way. So that is the difference between mind mapping and brainstorming. So she said, Debris, she said, loving this. Sorry, I can't see the question. It's going to come up soon. Okay. She says, loving this so much. Can't wait to get started on my mind mapping journey. Woo woo. I'm so here for it. If you have questions, definitely hit me up. I'm Care Spears on Instagram. And if you have a question about mind mapping or want to book your own, you can definitely go to carespears.com and find some open slots. So I am really excited about this because it seems like everyone is super charged up on starting mind mapping. Anonymous says, how far out should I be planning? That is completely up to you and your discretion. I think that I find the most rewarding mind mappings when I do them frequently, but you can look as far out as 10 years of your life. You can look up, you could do it in 3-month increments. You can also do a weekly mind map. You could do a daily mind map. It is truly up to you and whatever problem is it you want to approach and solve in a creative way. I think that you should also be planning as far in advance for big things and big life events as much as possible. And for me, I look through everything from a business perspective and a business lens since I am an entrepreneur. So it's really important for me to stay ahead of my goals and to always think about what comes next after I finish a thing. And mind mapping allows me to revisit whatever it is that I wrote down. So I hope that's helpful to you. I think we got through most of the questions, but I'm really excited to, again, plug the Social Works and reason behind why we're even doing this today. So as you know, like they are, since quarantine is happening, a lot of high schoolers are unable to attend prom. And so Social Work stepped in, and now they want to provide an experience for these high schoolers who missed out on such a fun event, such a milestone event in your high school career. And so they're fundraising for the Prom Fund. So if you enjoyed this session and want to support their efforts, definitely donate by texting Social Works to 797979, and you get the link to donate. And I definitely donated the stipend that they offer me back to the fund. And so you should too. So I hope that this really sparks some inspiration in you. So this is really cool. And then Shawnee Daz on Instagram said, my sister loved her mind mapping session with Karen Spears. Very helpful and creative way to manifest your ideas. This is bomb. Thank you so much, Shawnee. Yes, her session was amazing. Her focus was really more on business structure and how she should approach running her new business. So again, I'm like always from a business strategic perspective. So when you book your mind mapping session with me, I also add in my 2 cents toward the end of different ways that we can approach your problem in a creative way. And again, I bring creative visions to life for a living. So I do have some insights and shortcuts as to how to approach those very daunting problems. So we have a last question. All the days seem the same lately. How can I plan out my weeks to feel ready to be productive? That is a really good question. Being productive in this time can be very scary. I think that the more fun you make it, the better. And mind mapping allows you to do just that. So if you want to book a session with me, definitely they're $100 for a limited time only for 90 minutes. So you get an hour and a half to really, figure out whatever that pain point that you are currently experiencing. And together we come up with a plan of action. You get full access to your notes that we created. And it's all fun stuff. So thank you so much to Social Works for having me. Again, you can follow me at Care Spears on Instagram. You can book your session and learn more about what it is that I do on carespears.com. And if you have any questions or comments or feedback, definitely DM me, screenshot me, tell me how much you love this session, and I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Social works, social works, social works. Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works. Yeah, S works. Everyone put up their hands. You know it's a vibe. They're waiting in line to get up and flood up the stands. Yeah, we in this together. We feeling like fam. It's all about peace. So pull up with friends. You better come through with you and your crew, cause everybody going in. S works, so we keep it lit. You can see how we move the city from the west side to the east. Ooh, you can feel how we leave through. It's all about the youth. Change the world through the tunes. Make the world to a better place. Saying S works, what we do.
Social works, social works, social works, social, social works, social works, social works. Social works. Keep my family out the dirt. This organization, we stopping no Satan and open, but we call it SWorks. Action on Taylor the killer verse. I do on my family, my city hurt. They killing our babies, this work on crazy. I pray for my city to reimburse. Private schools for the kids. We the city and we litty. All I know is it's work. With the heart, keep it busy. Know the life can be tricky, but please just let me finish. Let me just be handle business.
Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works.
Ready or not, here we come. South side, west side, east side, north side. Up on the run, we ain't finna none. We came in the party, we here for the fun. Celebrate life, the party we young. Sky's the limit, we looking above. We up in the sun, no matter what, we stay on the run. Ha, SWork, do your thing. SWork, keep it lit. Bullseye, keep your aim. Yeah, we up on the jib. North side, that's the way. Ready or not, here we come. SWork, keep the energy. Look, yeah, we never unplug. SWork, show some love.
Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works.